You don't belong in this family, Rachel. You are nothing more than a stepping stone. Those words cut through me like a blade. On the very night I thought would be the happiest of my life. My wedding night. The night little girls dream of. The night I had prayed for through years of lonely evenings and silent sacrifices. And yet, that night became the start of my downfall. But before I tell you how my world shattered and how I rose from the ashes, please make sure to subscribe to her betrayal stories and hit the notification bell. Here, every story reveals how betrayal can be turned into justice. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'm Rachel. I was 32 when I married Ethan. To everyone, it looked like a fairy tale. I had met him through Madison, my best friend, the woman I trusted with everything. She even helped me pick my wedding dress. The ceremony sparkled like a dream. Ethan held my hand and vowed, "Rachel, you are my compass, my forever." For a moment, I believed I was safe, but during the reception, he slipped away for what he called a quick business call. Strange, on a wedding night. When I passed our table, his phone lit up with a message. "Don't forget what we talked about tonight. She can't suspect a thing." My chest tightened. I told myself it was business, but doubt had already been planted. Later, I saw Madison fuss with Ethan's tie, her touch too intimate, his gaze lingering too long. I laughed it off for the cameras, but inside, something twisted. Hours later, I sat alone in the honeymoon suite. Rose petals scattered on the bed, candles flickering low, silence pressing in. My wedding dress grew heavier with every tick of the clock. Midnight crept closer, and still, Ethan hadn't returned. That's when I heard it. Faint whispers drifting down the hall. A laugh. And then, my name. Ethan's voice. Madison's chuckle. I followed the sounds through the dark corridor of portraits. At the end, the door to his mother's room. My hand trembled as I turned to the handle. Inside, Ethan and Madison. Twisted together in Margaret's bed. My world tilted. Ethan froze. Madison smirked. "You were never the choice, Rachel. Just the stepping stone for his inheritance." Then Ethan's whisper, "You don't belong in this family." Before I could collapse, a shadow appeared behind me. Margaret, his mother. Her eyes burned like daggers. She had seen. She had heard. And in that instant, I knew nothing would ever be the same. Before we plunge deeper into this storm, let me speak from my heart to yours. If you've ever sacrificed, stayed silent, swallowed your pain to keep a family together, this channel is for you. Please, take a moment to subscribe to Her Betrayal Stories and tap the bell, so you never miss another story where quiet women find their voices. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Your story might light the path for our next episode. I didn't shed a tear in Margaret's doorway. The shock had frozen my face. Or maybe the years of swallowing hurt had already turned me to stone. Ethan clutched the sheet like a boy caught stealing, lips moving without sound. Madison tilted her chin, smirking like a queen who had cheated to win her crown. Margaret's gaze swept over them, slow, cold, a verdict taking shape. No one spoke, not truly. The silence was a courtroom, and the evidence lay naked on rumpled linen. I turned before their excuses could crawl into the air. The hallway stretched longer than before. Portraits stared down at me, eyes of the dead recording my retreat. Back in the suite, roses smelled suddenly rotten. I sat on the edge of the bed until the candles hissed and died. At sunrise, Ethan appeared. He had showered. The scent of his mother's soap clung to him. In the doorway, he looked like a groom reset for a do-over. "We need to talk," he said. I thought of the text. "She can't suspect a thing." My voice was flat. "Go on." He cleared his throat. "We were drunk. It shouldn't have happened. I'll fix it. But Rachel, don't make a scene. The family breakfast is at 9. Appearances matter. There it was. The first rule of their world. Appearances matter. Truth could bleed in private so long as the linen stayed white in public. Did you ever love me? I asked. His jaw clenched. Love is complicated when legacy is involved. Legacy, I echoed, the word metallic on my tongue. He glanced at his watch. Get dressed, and for God's sake, don't involve my mother. She's under enough stress. As if she hadn't seen everything. Please, he added softer. Let's be adults. Adults. Another word for accomplices to silence. The family breakfast was a stage set. A long table by tall windows, silver domes hiding identical plates, staff gliding like shadows. Guests, cousins, godparents, business partners, lingered with handshakes that looked like contracts. Madison slipped into a chair 2 seats from me, hair gleaming, expression serene. Her eyes met mine for a second. No remorse, only a warning. Don't you dare. Margaret took her seat at the head. For a long beat, she didn't lift her coffee. She scanned faces, measuring who knew, who suspected, whose masks fit best. Good morning, she said at last, voice sanded of warmth. Let us make this brief. The staff has much to do. Ethan rose, smile rehearsed. Thank you all for sharing our joy. Rachel and I are grateful. Madison's laugh cut him off, bright and brittle. Grateful and glowing, she said, laying her hand on his sleeve. Aren't they perfect? A polite ripple of chuckles. My fingers tightened on the linen napkin until the seam popped. Then, Margaret's spoon tapped porcelain. Ting, ting. Once, twice. Enough pleasantries, she said. Ethan, meet me in the study. Now. Rachel, you as well. Madison's smile flickered. She started to rise. Should I? No, Margaret said, without looking at her. We followed Margaret down the corridor. She walked faster than usual, like a woman bracing a door before a storm burst through. In the study, mahogany, leather, the musk of old money. She shut the door and stood with her back to it. I'm going to speak plain, she said. I saw what I saw, and I will not have this family humiliated. Ethan's mouth opened, closed. Mother, it was a mistake. 2 adults making a mistake in a private home is bad judgment, Margaret cut in. Making that mistake in my bed is an attack. He paled. Be silent, she snapped. For a heartbeat, I saw the power that made men twice her size obey. Then she turned to me. Rachel, I extended this house and its name to you. I will not pretend last night didn't happen. But you will not set fire to my life because my son is faithless. It was not sympathy. It was a warning wrapped as protection. Respectfully, I said, bitterness sharp. Your son set the fire. I'm only standing in the smoke. Her eyes softened 1 degree. No more. There will be no theatrics. If you want dignity, keep your voice low. Dignity is leverage. She paused. As for you, Ethan, from this moment you will conduct yourself with the discipline of a soldier. Your partnership deal closes in 6 weeks. You will not risk it. And you, she flicked her gaze toward the hall where Madison waited, will end that entanglement. Quietly. Ethan nodded, chastened like a schoolboy. My stomach twisted. Even now, it was the deal that moved him. Do you understand me? Margaret asked. Yes, Mother, he whispered. She faced me again. We will handle this discreetly. Keep your head. And Rachel? She hesitated a fraction. Choose your allies wisely. Choose your allies. The phrase slid under my skin and stayed there. The quiet war began with small erasures, a canceled honeymoon due to market volatility, a new lock on Ethan's office door, a calendar filling itself with meetings I wasn't welcome to. At night, he slept at the far edge of the bed, the divide between us a river we no longer crossed. Madison became a rumor with perfect lipstick. She stopped calling, but I felt her everywhere. In the changed seating chart for the gala, in laughter that died when I entered a room, in the way cousins tilted phones away from my sight. The staff hushed when I passed. Were they protecting me or their jobs? 2 weeks in, I found the first financial bruise. My debit card declined at a pharmacy. The cashier smiled. Happens to everyone. Back home, I logged into my account. An automatic sweep to a trust I didn't recognize. Ethan sauntered in as I printed the statement. "What is this?" I asked, holding up the paper. "Consolidation," he said in the tone men use with children. "Your spending was unfocused. It's better if I manage things. We have goals." "My savings were for the clinic roof," I said. He shrugged. "Roof. Ring. What's the difference? It's all ours." "No," I said, careful. "It was mine." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Nothing is yours now, Rachel. Not separately. That's marriage. Another rule. Marriage as a merger where your contributions dissolve." "Don't be dramatic," he added, turning away. "You're not working at the clinic anymore either. It makes us look modest." "Modest? I prefer elevated," he said. "Philanthropy from the right distance. You'll thank me." I thought of our patients' tired faces, the roof still leaking. "If I stop working," I whispered, "who am I to myself?" He adjusted his cufflinks in the mirror. "My wife," he said. "Try it on. It'll fit eventually." Humiliation stacked like plates, small, identical, breakable if thrown. I didn't throw them. I counted them. At a family dinner, someone joked about how long I took to adjust. Ethan chuckled. "She means well, but she's not built for this level. Not built, like a pair of shoes that pinch." On a Tuesday, Madison's scarf lay draped over the arm of the living room chair, silk and perfume clinging like a fingerprint. "She's a family friend," Ethan said when I asked. "Don't be provincial." On a Thursday, Margaret convened a ladies' lunch. Between bites of poached salmon, she announced the gala theme, Legacy of Hope, and assigned me a silent role. Stand still, look luminous, cut a ribbon. When I asked about adding the clinic, Margaret set down her fork with surgical precision. "We support institutions with Polish," she said. "No offense." "None taken," I lied, feeling something in me harden to steel. That night, in the guest bathroom, the only mirror that felt honest, I whispered to my reflection, "If you've ever heard, 'You're useless now,' you are not alone." Maybe I was speaking to future viewers, maybe to the woman in the glass. If you watching this have been told your value expired, know this: they're wrong. The expiration date was printed by someone who profits from your silence. A week before the gala, the housekeeper handed me a padded envelope. "This was in the laundry," she murmured. "Not mine to judge." Inside, a flash drive and a sticky note in block letters. "Choose your allies." My heart thudded. Margaret's phrase returned like a tide. Had she sent it? Someone she commanded? Someone she underestimated? Behind a locked door, I plugged the drive into my laptop. Screenshots of Ethan and Madison's texts spilled across the screen. Nights, places, plans. Plans for me. Plans for my adjustment. A second folder. Board call minutes. Margaret's voice ordering funds frozen. Assets moved. Ensuring I had no grounds in the event of separation. The betrayal wasn't intimate anymore. It was institutional. A final file. A portrait of a woman from the hall. Caption: Eleanor Whitfield, 1928 to 1981. Divorced. Received nothing. Someone, decades ago, had walked these floors and been erased like chalk. I closed the laptop gently, as if the moment could shatter if I moved too fast. The house murmured around me, pipes, footsteps, doors sighing. Somewhere, Ethan laughed. I set my palms on the desk. I am not Eleanor. The words rose from a place I hadn't visited in years. I would not be a name erased by pretty parties and polished philanthropy. But I needed more than anger. I needed strategy. Proof with a chain of custody. Someone who knew how to turn bruises into leverage. The flash drive pulsed in the dim like a stubborn star. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a number I hadn't dialed in months, the one my clinic director had pressed into my hand when I got engaged. If you ever find yourself out of your depth, call Connor. I hovered over the call button. If I pressed it, I would cross a line I could never uncross. If I waited, I would drown 1 inch at a time. Tell me, I whisper to you, to the woman watching this who has been where I am. What would you do now? Would you keep peace and lose yourself? Or would you risk the storm and reach for your own shore? My thumb touched the screen. I stared at Connor's name glowing on my phone screen, thumb trembling over the call button. He wasn't family. He wasn't a guest from glittering dinners. He was the quiet man who once came to my clinic, offering free legal help to patients about to lose their homes. Back then, he spoke with dignity, never pity. Choose your allies, Margaret had said, and something deep inside me whispered, Connor is one. I pressed call. Rachel? His voice carried caution, as if pulled from memory. Yes, I need your help. I didn't spill everything at once. Just the essentials. My accounts emptied. Evidence of infidelity. Whispers of legal traps. Connor didn't gasp. He didn't curse. He only asked, Do you have proof? Yes, I said, eyes flicking to the flash drive burning a hole in my purse. Then we'll build the rest. But listen, move quietly. If they suspect, they'll bury the tracks. Can you stay quiet? Quiet. I had been quiet my entire life. Yes. Then tomorrow. Meet me at my office. Don't use your car. Borrow one. Take the bus. These people worship appearances. Let's use that against them. That night, I lay beside Ethan in the dark. His phone lit up his face as he typed fast, then dropped it face down, hiding the glow. My eyes searched the ceiling, but all I saw was Madison's laugh, Margaret's warning, Eleanor Whitfield's name etched into history and erased from it. I am not Eleanor. Morning came. I wore plain clothes, left early, told the staff I was meeting an old friend. Connor's office was modest, shelves bending with books, the air rich with dust and coffee. I laid the flash drive on his desk like a weapon. He clicked through the files, his brow tightened with every screenshot. They're laying the groundwork, he said. Trust funds, prenup loopholes, character smears. If they win, you walk away with nothing. I don't care about money, I whispered. He looked straight at me. Rachel, they do. And money is the language of power in their world. If you let them strip you, they'll rewrite your story. This isn't greed. It's survival. Something in me cracked open. For years, I thought dignity meant silence, swallowing hurt to protect a family. Connor's words burned that illusion away. Survival sometimes means defense. Over the weeks, Connor became my teacher. He showed me how trusts were armored, how inheritances were hidden, how silence was turned into a weapon. They want you to look hysterical, he said, sliding papers across the desk. In court, hysteria destroys women. But documentation? That's armor. Dates, amounts, witnesses. Do you keep a journal? I shook my head. Start tonight. Every word, every bruise of conversation. Courts like timelines. Patterns tell stories, numbers alone can't. So I began. A leather notebook hidden in my handbag. On its pages, I wrote Ethan's words like scars. "You're not built for this level. Try it on, it'll fit eventually. Nothing is yours now." Each line carried a date, a room, a witness. The notebook became a map of my slow erasure. Meanwhile, Margaret grew stranger. One evening, she called me to her private sitting room. "Rachel," she said, pouring tea into porcelain, "families are delicate. Sometimes a woman must choose patience over pride." Her tone was softer than I'd ever heard, almost kind. "If you endure, the rewards come later. Appearances must be preserved." I studied her lined face, trying to see enemy or ally. "And if patience leaves me with nothing?" Her eyes flicked to a portrait on the wall. Another woman, expression muted, long gone. "Then at least history will remember you as graceful." Graceful, like Eleanor. Erased. I left her room trembling, but Connor's words roared louder in my chest. Documentation is armor. A few nights later, the housekeeper brushed past me in the hall, slipping an envelope into my hand. "Not mine to judge," she whispered. Inside, a photocopy of Madison's driver's license, scribbled with hotel addresses and dates. At the bottom, "You didn't hear this from me." I folded it into my notebook. That's when I realized the staff had been watching all along. They had seen too many betrayals within these walls, and maybe, quietly, they were rooting for me. One evening, Ethan staggered in late. His tie hung loose, lips faintly stained with lipstick that wasn't mine. I waited until he collapsed onto the bed. My voice was ice. "Does she make you feel powerful?" His eyes opened, lazy and sharp. "She makes me feel seen. You make me feel managed." The cruelty stole my breath. After years of sacrifice, every hour at the clinic, every compromise, I was managerial. "I built a life with you," I whispered. He smirked. "You built stability. But stability doesn't thrill. Don't look so shocked. Love is business, Rachel. You should have known." My fists knotted in the sheets. "If it's business," I said, steady now, "then remember, every business keeps records." He laughed, dismissing me, but my heart steadied. For the first time, my words weren't defense. They were warning. The next day, I spread the new evidence on Connor's desk. Lipstick stains, schedules, words carved into memory. He tapped his pen. "You're ready." "For what?" "To let them think you're weak while you build your case. Margaret plays both sides. Madison thinks she's untouchable. Ethan thinks he owns you. That arrogance is your opening. But you must time it." He slid a folder toward me. Draft motions, account custody, injunctions. "When the moment comes, you'll strike. Not from spite, from necessity. Until then, endure, gather, document." That night, I entered the gala in a black dress, not the luminous gown Margaret had chosen, but one I owned. Ethan frowned but stayed silent. Madison clutched his arm too tightly, her glare slicing across the room. Margaret raised her glass. The hall hushed. Every eye turned toward me. For a heartbeat, the silence pressed like water. Then I smiled, calm, deliberate. Inside, my heart whispered, "They think I'm drowning, but I've learned to breathe underwater." I wasn't ready yet, but soon. If you've ever lived in that limbo, the waiting, the gathering, the silent endurance, you know the ache. So let me ask you, would you stay quiet until the storm passed? Or would you build your own thunder? The gala rose like a stage from velvet darkness, chandeliers blazing, drapes spilling midnight, an audience stitched in silk and ambition. At the center stood Margaret, regal in deep blue, speaking smooth vows to legacy and hope. The Whitfield Foundation's annual gala wasn't a party. It was a mirror they held up to the world to prove they were untouchable, polished by cameras, charity, and curated smiles. I stood beside her in a plain black dress, deliberately somber, the way a mourner dresses for a funeral. And in truth, something was being buried here tonight. Not me. Not anymore. Ethan paraded me on his arm, jaw ironed flat, eyes rehearsed for the lenses. Madison gleamed in silver. Just a guest. Close enough to whisper. Far enough to lie. Rumor followed her like perfume. Every nod, every flash, felt choreographed to smother doubt. In my clutch, the flash drive throbbed like a small, relentless heart. Speeches, auctions, polite applause. Twice, Ethan leaned toward Madison, mouth curling into a private smirk. Twice, a coil inside me tightened, and yet I kept still. My calm was not surrender. It was aim. Margaret lifted her spoon and tapped crystal. A hush rippled outward. This family, she said, voice cool as cut glass, thrives because we remember our roots, honor our bonds, and safeguard our legacy. Her gaze crossed the room, Ethan, then Madison, then me. It lingered. It stung. Ethan stood, smile lacquered for the cameras. Tonight we reaffirm our commitment to community and philanthropy. My wife Rachel and I stand united in that mission. United. The word lodged like a stone. Madison's smirk twitched. My pulse steadied. This was it. I set my clutch down and rose. If I may, I said, steady, clear. Heads turned. Ethan's smile cracked. Rachel, he hissed. Sit down. I didn't. I lifted the small remote Connor had slipped into my palm. One press. Projectors bloomed to life. Screens around the ballroom flickered, then sharpened. Slide 1. A midnight text. She can't suspect a thing. Gasps scattered like startled birds. Slide 2. Madison's reply. 6 more weeks and it's ours. Madison's color drained. She lunged for the remote. I stepped back. My voice rang. Not philanthropy, not legacy. This is what your heir and his companion planned. Betrayal, deceit, and theft, hidden under ballroom light. The room erupted. Phones rose. Whispers flared into shouts. Ethan grabbed my arm. What have you done? I pulled free. What I should have done from the beginning. Told the truth. The doors burst open. Margaret entered, the temperature dropping with her. She hadn't been there for the first slide, but the screens were enough. The room itself was enough. Ethan. His name came out a verdict. In my house, in my bed. And you dare preach honor under my roof? Mother, listen. She raised a hand. Silence sliced the chaos. You are no son of mine tonight. You are a disgrace. A collective inhale. Margaret pivoted to Madison. And you slithered in as a friend and poisoned what was left of integrity. You are banished from this home, from this name. Madison's composure shattered. Margaret, please. Out, Margaret said. The word cracked like thunder. Security moved. Madison clawed at dignity that would not come, pleading as the doors swallowed her. Cameras followed, hungry, merciless. Ethan faltered, eyes pinging between his mother and me. You'll destroy the family name, he spat. No, Margaret said, mouth a hard line. You destroyed it. I will rebuild without you. I stepped forward, voice level. You called me a stepping stone, but this villa, these accounts, the law disagrees. From my clutch, I drew a folder. Connor's ink, Connor's seals. Emergency injunction. All transfers reversed. Trusts frozen pending court review. The power you waved like a flag? Consider it grounded. Ethan's face went slack. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I dare, I said, louder so every listening ear could carry it home. Dignity is leverage, and I've learned how to use it." A cheer rose, one, then another, people clapping not for charity or myth, but for justice breaking through the lacquer. Ethan lunged. Margaret stepped between us, a wall in midnight blue. "Enough. You are trespassing in your own home. Leave, or be removed." Security closed in. He sputtered, cursed, called my name as if ownership were a spell. I did not flinch. I stood, not as his wife, not as his victim, as myself. Cameras caught everything: the blue-white light of evidence, Madison's fall, Ethan's unmasking, the matriarch's fury. In the morning, tabloids would feast. In a week, deals would wither. In a month, Ethan would move through this city like a rumor that had finally been proven false. But in that exact moment, I wasn't thinking of revenge or reputation. I was thinking of every woman told, "You're useless now." Every Eleanor whose portrait was left to gather dust. Every Rachel who learned to swallow her own name to keep a table from shaking. Not me. Not anymore. When the ballroom drained of noise, Margaret poured herself a drink. The glass chimed softly against the decanter, her hands, for once, not perfectly steady. "You played your hand well," she said. "I only told the truth," I answered. She studied me, the mask of the matriarch loosening by a fraction. "Truth is a weapon most women are taught to fear. Perhaps you'll do what I didn't." Perhaps she had been Eleanor once, just dressed in deeper pockets. "I won't be erased," I said. She lifted her glass. "Then don't." I looked at the black screen where the slides had been and felt something quiet settle in my chest. Not triumph. Exactly. Recognition. The moment a woman realizes she will no longer negotiate with her own worth. If you had been in that ballroom, if betrayal had ripped the mask from your marriage, would you have stayed silent to protect appearances? Or would you, like me, have let the truth burn in public? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes silence is survival, and sometimes survival demands the storm. The days after the gala felt like walking through a dream that had cracked open. The Whitfield estate still whispered my name in its shadows, but I no longer belonged there. Headlines screamed across every paper: "Whitfield heir exposed in infidelity and fraud." And just as quickly as Ethan had once dominated the city, he vanished from it. Madison slipped away too, her glittering mask dissolved, leaving town in a borrowed car. But for me, silence finally felt clean. Not the suffocating silence of suppression, but the quiet of release. I returned to my small apartment near the clinic. The key turned in the lock with a sound sharper than any applause at the gala. The walls were plain, the furniture modest, but every piece was mine. I switched on the light and breathed in air untouched by legacy. At the clinic, the nurses greeted me with tears and laughter. The roof still leaked. The waiting room was still crowded, but the eyes that met mine held no judgment, only gratitude. A mother pressed my hand. "We're glad you're back." For the first time in months, I felt useful. Not as a wife, not as a pawn. As Rachel, the woman who had chosen to heal, not to perform. Whispers carried Ethan's downfall back to me, his authority stripped, deals collapsing, Margaret freezing every account until the courts were done with him. Within 3 months, he was renting a one-bedroom, his suits pawned, his calls unanswered. One afternoon, he appeared at the clinic door. Gaunt, hollow-eyed. "Rachel," he said, voice frayed. I made a mistake." I looked at him. The man who once called me a stepping stone, who reduced love to business, now stripped of armor, of empire. I didn't hate him. I didn't even pity him. What I felt was distance. "You didn't make a mistake, Ethan," I said softly. "You made a choice, and choices have consequences." His mouth opened, but I raised my hand. I forgive you, I added. His eyes lit, hopeful, until I finished. Not for you, for me, because I refuse to carry your weight anymore. I turned back toward the clinic. He didn't follow. Weeks later, Margaret summoned me for tea. Her hair had grayed, her voice carried the tremor of years she had hidden. You changed this family, she said quietly. I once thought appearances were everything, but appearances rot when truth is buried too long. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside, funds to repair the clinic roof. Call it restitution. For the first time, her smile held no calculation. Perhaps she too had once been Eleanor. Perhaps this was her way of rewriting history, giving another woman what she herself had been denied. It was then Connor called, my quiet anchor through the storm. I just wanted to check in, he said. Are you breathing again? I laughed, light spilling into the sound. More than breathing, living. Coffee became dinners. Dinners became long walks. Connor never rushed, never pushed. He listened. In his presence, I wasn't a scandal. I wasn't a victim. I was simply Rachel, alive, unchained. Months later, he asked me to walk the pier at sunrise. The horizon blushed gold. He reached for my hand. This time, it didn't feel like possession. It felt like partnership. On the morning of my second wedding, sunlight poured through chapel windows. No chandeliers, no velvet drapes. Just friends, neighbors, faces from the clinic who had known my lowest hours. Halfway through the vows, the doors creaked open. Ethan stood there, thinner, broken, holding out the ring from our first marriage. Rachel, he whispered, give me another chance. Gasps rippled. Connor's hand tightened around mine, steady, patient. I stepped forward, took the ring in my palm. It felt cold, heavy with years of silence and betrayal. I forgive you, I repeated. Then I let it slip through my fingers. The clatter echoed through the chapel like a final gavel strike. Ethan's face crumpled. He turned, shoulders bent, swallowed by the light outside. I walked back to Connor, lifted my chin, and spoke my vows with a heart finally free. When I look back now, I don't see tragedy. I see testament. I was silenced, betrayed, nearly erased. But I refuse to remain Eleanor, a woman forgotten on a portrait wall. To every woman watching this who has been told she's useless now, who has been treated like a stepping stone, hear me. You are not disposable. Your worth is not measured by someone else's legacy. It lives in the love, dignity, and courage you claim for yourself. Respect isn't inherited, it is earned. And forgiveness. It isn't about letting them back in, it's about setting yourself free. If you had been in my place, facing betrayal at the heart of your marriage, what would you have done? Would you stay for appearances or choose truth, no matter the cost? Share your story below. You might discover your voice is the very one another woman needs to hear tonight. Before we end, from my heart to yours, subscribe to Her Betrayal Stories and tap the bell icon. This is where silence becomes voice, where betrayal turns into justice. If this story touched you, leave a comment, maybe even write a message to your younger self. Remind her she is stronger than she ever imagined, because here, together, we rewrite endings.